Hi students, it's Julie. In this example, I'm going to go through setting up a double frequency table and a double histogram. So we do this when we have two sets of data that we want to look at side by side. Um, as an example, we have these two sets of data right here. We've got kind of a range of numbers, or two similar ranges of numbers. So it makes sense to take a look at them on the same frequency table and the same histogram. I don't know what this data is supposed to represent, but that's really not super important right now. So what I'm going to do is set up my frequency table first. And this will look very similar to a frequency table for just one set of data. So what I'm going to do here is set up a couple of columns. Looks kind of terrible, but that's okay. And then what I want to think about is looking at the two sets of data, how am I going to set up the categories or bins for this data? And so first of all, I'm going to go up here and I'll put some labels. So these are going to be my bins. This data is just called set number 1 and set number 2. And so what I'm going to do is look at the two sets of data and see if I can find basically the range of data. So what I'm really looking for is what are the small values and what are the large values. And just kind of looking through this first set, I see a 61 here. I don't really see anything smaller than that. There's another 61 down in the bottom set of data. Looks like 60s are going to be the smallest numbers that I have as well. So that means I probably want my bottom bin to be numbers in the 60s, and I'm going to just say 60 to 69 for the moment. And then the top range of data, I can see I've got a 117 here. If I look at the bottom set of data, also looks like I've got some 117s. So I've got data that goes up into the 100s. So I'm going to set up my bins. Remember, we want them all to be the same size. So I'm going to set them up basically in groups of 10s. So 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99, 100 to 109, and 110 to 119. I think that should do it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the two lists of data and I'm going to count up how many pieces of data fall into each of those categories. And what I like to do, and different people have different ways of doing this, but I like to actually go through and start with my lowest bin or my lowest category of numbers. So I'm looking for numbers in the 60s. And I'm going to go through and count everything that's in the 60s. And as I do that, I'm going to cross it off. So like here's a 61. So that's one. I kind of run across the rows here. There's another one. There's 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of data in that first set that are in the 60s. And I'm pretty much just going to work my way through here. First I'll do set number 1, and I'll fill in everything in the first column here, and then I'll do set number 2. I'm not going to make you watch me do all that, so I'm just going to pause this for a moment, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now I have the frequency table all set up. You can see I've crossed off all of the pieces of data and filled in my columns here for set 1 and set 2. Another good thing that you can do just as sort of a double check here is run down your first set and total everything up and see if the number of pieces of data that you come up with makes sense. So in this case, if I add these all together, I get 50. And it makes sense that I'd have 50 pieces of data in that first set of data. And set number 2 then should match. And if I go ahead and add up all of these, they also come out to 50. So that looks pretty good. So what I need to do now is take the information from my frequency table and use it to set up a histogram. So the first thing I'm going to do for my histogram, I'll just put this down below, is make sure that I have enough room here. and the highest frequency that we have for either of these groups is 12. So that means that my vertical axis really only needs to go up to 12. So I'm going to put that right here. And let's see if I've got enough room here to count by 1. So there's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 0 is going to be right down here. That looks pretty good. And I'll fill in my axis here. That looks kind of terrible. Let me get rid of that line. Okay. Go back to my pen. And all right. That's not a great axis line, but we're going to live with that. So now I'm going to fill in along the bottom here. I've got a horizontal axis. And I'm going to make that long enough that I can put all of my bins in here. So along the bottom, I'm going to start with 60. And the thing to think about now, because I'm doing a double histogram, is that I want to leave room so that I can have 2 bars for each bin of data. So I think I have enough room here that I can leave 2 spaces for each bar. I'm going to count by 10s. I want to include the minimum value. And then I want to go all the way up to, in this case, the top value of my top bin is 119. So I'm actually going to number to 120. Fill that in there. All right, and then I'm going to squeeze a little label in down here. These are basically my data points. Up along the side here, we have, oops, put this over here, frequency. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and put a title on here right away too. So I'm just going to call this double histogram because that's what it is. If I knew what this data represented, I would put a title on here that told me more about this data. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, because I have 2 sets of data, I'm going to go ahead and color code these. So I'm going to pick a different color. We'll do the first set of data in red, and off to the side here I'm going to create a key. And so I'm going to make a little square here, and we'll say that this is for set 1. And then I'm going to start filling in my bars for set 1. So from 60 to 69 in set 1 there were 6 pieces of data. So I'm going to draw a line here. There's my bar for, I'll just kind of fill this in with some stripes. There's for 60 to 69. 70 to 79 was the same. So I'm going to leave space for my set 2 bar. And I'm going to put in this one here. Okay. The next 80 to 89 had 7 pieces of data. So I just need to go up 1 more. Draw in this bar. Fill that in. 90 to 99 is 12, so this is going to be way up here. And if I wasn't doing this on the computer, I'd draw this a little bit more smoothly. Maybe use a ruler to draw the bars so that they came out a little bit nicer. But we do what we can here. So the next bar is at 10. Draw that one in. And the final one is at 9. So draw that one Okay, now I'm going to choose or go through and do bars for the second set of data. We'll make these green. So over here, make part of my legend that green bars are going to represent set 2. And the first category for set 2 is exactly the same as for set 1. So I'm going to draw in a bar that goes up to 6. It's going to actually look just like the one for set 1. The second one goes up to 8 though. So draw this in. Shade that in a bit. Then we've got 11. And I could keep working my way across here. I've just got a couple more to fill in, so I'll go ahead and finish that. So the next one is at 8. 100 to 110 is at 12 again. Make this look nice. And one last bar to go, and that one goes up to 5. It's right here. And I'm going to fill that in. And that's what my double histogram would look like. So, again, important things to think about would be making sure that you've got room for 2 bars for each category of data down here on the horizontal axis. Make sure you've got room for your highest frequency count on the vertical axis. And then color coding would be, or doing some sort of pattern code if you shade the bars in different ways or something like that if you're using one color, so that your viewer, someone who's looking at your histogram, can tell apart the 2 sets of data pretty easily. All right, that's it. This is how you make a double frequency table and a double histogram. Thanks for watching.